I am Yvon Gégou from INREA in France, member of the XtreemOS consortium. I'm going to present you a tutorial about the point of view of users on XtreemOS Grid Operating System. This tutorial will show how users prepare their application, prepare the data, submit application to the grid, and get the result back, exploit the results. And we'll show that the user interface is very close to what users are used to have on their own Linux desktop. For this tutorial, I will use open source non-grid application, which is Tachyon ray tracer. So I have already installed this ray tracer in my home volume provided by XtreemOS, the grid file system of XtreemOS. Here I am on my desktop. I'm in the Tachyon repository. The binary is in this directory of the Tachyon tree. I already have a few scenes defined in this directory here. Each of these describes a few objects on which we are going to apply the ray tracing. I can show one of these. Classical teapot is described this way. Okay, this is a description of teapot. I don't know exactly what it is. Now, for this tutorial and to exploit the grid, what I plan to do is to apply the ray tracing code to each of these scenes. And to do this, here I log on an XtreemOS machine on which I have already an account, my classical Unix account. On this node, from this node, I'm going to submit jobs to the grid. And as I have to submit maybe 40, 50 jobs, I don't remember the number of scenes. The classical way under Unix is to write a script, which is here, a bash script, which iterates on each scene data. And then for each scene data, which is going to submit a job to the grid system. And the job is described by a GSDL file. And from this GSDL file, XtreemOS is going to locate a resource which has enough power or enough resource to execute the job. This is a classical bash script which iterates on the list of files. And to execute, I just execute this bash script, and then which submits the job to the grid. For this demo, I am using only 3 resource nodes, so we can see the status of each node. And as you see, the load of the node grows here as they receive new jobs to execute. In fact, 3 nodes is not a huge grid, but XtreemOS can manage hundreds or thousands of nodes. But to see the monitoring, it's easier to limit the number of nodes. As you see, we see the activity of the node here. And my script is launching one job every maybe half second. XtreemOS has extended to jobs what in general all commands we have for process in a Linux environment. So in Linux, if you want to see a running process, you have PS. In XtreemOS, if you want to see the status of your jobs, you have the command XPS. So as you see, if I type XPS-A, I see the status of all my jobs. I think many of them are already done. Some of them are still running. We see activity on some nodes. We also provide XWait to wait for the end of the job. For instance, if you want to be notified of the end of the job, or we also have XKill or XJobKill, which allows you to send a signal to a job to kill the job or to send a classical Unix signal. If I come back to my desktop here, some of the jobs are half finished and have already produced the result file. To view this file, I have 2 possibilities: to use my desktop and to run GIMP or any image viewer on this directory, as the GIMP will have access to the results. Or the other solution is to run the viewer on some resource node and giving the resource node access to my desktop. I show running GIMP on my desktop, and open the result directory. And you see the result here of the computation. And I take the teapot one. So this is the result of the computation. So this shows how from my desktop I have access to the data of my jobs. I can provide data and I can see the result. This is the usual Unix interface. I don't need to copy files or to call FTP or anything else. Going back to my XtreemOS node, what I can also do is to use another possibility of XtreemOS, which is interactive job. So here with this request, I am asking the grid to run a bash shell for me on any of the resource connected to the grid. Okay, so I have authenticated on some resource node. I can see which node has been allocated to me. So it is node 2, which is this one here. As you see, I am in my home volume of XtreemOS. I have my grid identity, which is different from my previous identity, which existed only on this node, on my desktop. If GIMP is installed on this node, there's a kind of restriction. I can only use binaries that are already installed there. I can view my data on this node. I see exactly the same thing as in the other case. The difference here is that now GIMP is running on the resource node of the grid and opening windows on my desktop. So for the user, the interface is somewhat equivalent. The major difference is that GIMP can run on any laptop, desktop. It's not a powerful tool. But you can imagine that I want to run a meshing tool, which need a big machine or some power, some memory, which I cannot run on my desktop. Even worse, it could be a tool which needs a license, so I cannot install it on my desktop. XtreemOS extends what people can do on the grid, because now it allows people to run any application, any Unix POSIX application on the grid. During this demo, I showed that XtreemOS provides to the end user an interface that is very close to the usual interface they find in their Linux box. User can access, manage data, manage application, monitor application, and get the results back in a way very similar to what they usually do on their Linux box. Thank you very much.